Hey Dragon Slayers, today's video is about the introduction of why do we get sick. We are sick and dying worldwide. We are struggling with diseases that were once very rare, and in many cases, we're losing the fight. Each year, roughly 10 million people die from cancer, and almost 20 million people die from heart disease around the world. Another 50 million people globally have Alzheimer's disease, and almost half a billion of us have diabetes. While diseases like these are becoming increasingly common, other, less lethal conditions are also on the rise. Roughly 40% of adults worldwide are considered overweight or obese. Furthermore, almost half of men over 45 have lower than optimal testosterone levels, and almost 10% of women experiencing menstrual irregularities or infertility. Though they may seem unrelated, all of these disorders and more do one thing in common. To varying degrees, insulin resistance is causing the problem or making it worse. And you might have it too, unfortunately. The odds are that you do. A recent study hints that up to 85% of all US adults may have insulin resistance, along with half of all adults in Mexico, China, India, and more than one third of adults in Europe and Canada. The problem is also prevalent across the Pacific Islands, North Africa, and the Middle East as well. So you can see that this is a global problem, or a problem of a global scale. In fact, insulin resistance is the most common health disorder worldwide, and it affects more people, adults and children, each year than any other disease. And yet, most people are not familiar with the term insulin resistance. Or if they are, they don't really understand it, which is not surprising. Dr. Beekman is a biomedical scientist and professor, and though he now focuses on insulin resistance, he too was once totally in the dark about this condition. Dr. Beekman read a scientific article about how fat tissues secrete hormones that flow through the blood and affect other parts of the body, and he was fascinated and compelled to learn more about these processes. He wanted to understand how the body adapted to obesity. The more articles he read, the more evidence suggested that as the body gains fat, it also becomes insulin resistant, or less and less responsive to the hormone's effect. When Dr. Beekman first began studying what causes insulin resistance, he had no idea that it was connected to so many other chronic diseases. He simply thought it was a precursor to type 2 diabetes and had a mild link to heart disease. While studying heart disease, which is the world's number one cause of death, more closely, he was dumbfounded when he found countless scientific manuscripts highlighting the many different ways in which insulin resistance directly caused high blood pressure, high cholesterol, arterial plaquing, and more. The link was more than merely mild. This led him down a quest to figure out if there was any evidence of insulin resistance in other diseases. And he discovered that insulin resistance is the root cause of almost every single chronic disease. It was especially present in chronic conditions that stemmed from a diet high in processed and artificial foods. Dr. Beekman's main goal is to demystify the science of insulin resistance so that anyone can appreciate what it is and why it's dangerous. He wants to arm you with the knowledge of how to prevent and even reverse insulin resistance, all based on sound and published evidence. And he wants to teach you the steps to preventing disease through simple lifestyle changes, no medication required. The research that he relies on in his book has been performed and published by hundreds of different labs and hospitals all over the world that have studied this issue for over a century. As an author and scientist, he finds this history of evidence liberating. Nothing he writes in his book is based on his personal opinion, but rather published, peer reviewed science. So that's what I've got for you guys today. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it really helps the channel out. And remember that together, you and I will slay the dreaded diabetes dragon.